You want me to make a belt buckle? Okay, so let's make a buckle today, not a belt buckle. If you ask my daughter, she's going to say belt buckles are earned, not bought. It's that horse thing. I'm sorry, I haven't given you any recipes in about a month. If you've seen my channel, you know that I've been in Europe for about a week and a half, and then I got back and things got busy at work, and life happens. So, back to the buckle. A buckle was kind of a coffee cake. And we're going to make one gluten-free. And of course, we're going to use my favorite, which is the oat flour. And since it's starting to get a little chilly, the leaves are turning, my favorite fall fruit, pear. So, of course, with these, peel off the stickers. So we are going to first dice up these pears, and I'm going to saute them off just a little bit, because, well, they may not cook in the buckle. Okay, so I've got the pears diced up. Not too big or not too small chunks, just right, not that big. So in this buckle there are 3 parts. And every recipe I've seen, they're always talking about it in the wrong order that you would do things. In this one, we are going to saute off our pears, soften them up a bit because they're not going to quite cook all the way through in the buckle. So first thing we're going to do is saute this off. Then we're going to make our streusel topping. You're going to want the streusel topping ready to go as soon as the cake batter is done. So it makes sense to make that second, okay? But there's also a 4th step. We're going to prep our pan too, so we'll get to that. So let's get this started. And we're going to get this hot, fairly hot. Because I decided, as I'm cutting up the pears, is that I want to make a brown butter pear. Sound good? Okay. Well, to do that, we got to make brown butter. Okay. So, also, I didn't peel the pears. I don't mind the peel. If you do, go ahead and peel them. Also, you could substitute apples. That'd be good too. I would also say blueberries would be also excellent. Okay, our pan is hot right now, so I'm going to put the tablespoon of butter in and let that go. Notice how it's instantly starting to brown. See? That's what we want. It's starting to smell nutty in here. Let that go a minute, and you'll see how brown it will get. Again, start with a hot pan. All right, take a look at that. Nice and brown. We'll go in with our sugar, our cinnamon, and our pears. And just to up the acidity a little bit, near the end, I'm going to give it a squeeze of lemon. Also handy in this, just a pinch of salt. These have been going about 5 minutes. They're nice and soft, not too soft, but nice and soft. I'm going to throw in about the juice of half that lemon. We'll just mix that up. That'll just brighten up the flavors of that pear and all the other stuff in there. Give that a toss. And this is done. We're just going to set this aside, because it needs to cool. Okay, the streusel topping, very, very simple. I've got some butter, about half melted. Quarter cup of oat flour. Quarter cup of oats, rolled, extra thick. Now remember, to be gluten-free, make sure that you get certified gluten-free. Oats, if they're not handled properly, can contain gluten, okay? So these go in. Quarter cup of sugar, also in. We'll throw in our butter. Again, it's about half melted. Make sure you don't have any of the wrapper in it, like I did. And let's add a little bit of flavor to this. I got some nutmeg. Give it a few good grinds of nutmeg. And just go in with your hands. You can wear a glove if you want. And just mix this thoroughly. It should come up to a crumbly little mess-ish type thing. If it's still a little sticky, you can add a little bit more flour to it. And that's a little bit too sticky for me. I'm going to get a little more flour. Okay, we'll add, it's maybe another ounce. Yeah, maybe a little more, another ounce or so. So I'd say I'm up to about a half a cup. I miscalculated that a little bit, but to tell you the truth, I hardly ever measure this. I always just go with what it needs. And that's a part of being, creative in the kitchen. Instead of going by what the recipe says, say if the recipe calls for half a teaspoon of fresh rosemary, but you really like rosemary, go ahead and add more if you want. Just be careful, a little bit at a time, taste it as it goes. Okay, so this is still a little sticky, but it's something that I can crumble now. So we'll set that aside. And I'm gonna wash my hands. Okay, next step. Pan prep. So I'm just going to, you've seen me do this before. I'm gonna make a little sling out of this. So I cut my parchment paper so that it fits most of the bottom of the pan. Two of the sides, they're okay. I'm going to give it a spray, a little pan spray. This is coconut. Yeehaw. And then I'm just going to work this piece of parchment down into the pan. So, looks like that. So to put the batter together, we're going to use the creaming method. And that's why you really can't substitute out honey or molasses, which I've been known to do. Not only because I like them, I think they're a little more natural, but they taste good. So we're going to use regular white sugar, half a cup. Quarter cup of butter. And yes, Manny, this is the kind of butter that you think it is. We're going to let this mix probably for about 5 minutes until it's light and fluffy. On medium. Oh, you can do this with a hand mixer, or you could also do this with a wooden spoon. It depends on what kind of labor you want to put into it. I'm going to go with 5 minutes on this, medium. You got to stop halfway and scrape it down a bit, just to make sure that you don't have any dry spots or any all butter spots. Now we'll finish this up. Okay, I slowed it down because it's time to add 1 egg. We want to totally incorporate this. Go slow. Be patient. Okay, that's fully incorporated. Time to start adding our flour. 2 cups of oat flour. Half a teaspoon of baking powder and baking soda. Each, 1/2 each. 1/3 cup of buttermilk. And then we're gonna add some flavor. Okay? We'll start off with a little bit of the oat flour, and we'll just slowly combine that in. That's fine. We'll give it a Okay, all the flour, all the buttermilk, baking powder, and baking soda are in. Let's talk about extra flavors. I like ginger. We're going to throw in a 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. We've got cinnamon in the pears. We've also got nutmeg in the streusel. I still like nutmeg, and I'm going to throw in a little bit more in here. We'll mix that up, make sure it's nice and combined. We'll scrape it down one more time, and then we're going to start putting things together and putting things in the oven. Okay, now this comes out a lot stiffer than you would think for most batters, but we have to consider something. The syrup in here, that's going to loosen it up a great deal. Oh, and while I was mixing, I decided to make another change. I got about 1/3 of a cup of blueberries, dried blueberries. In go the pears. And all the syrup that goes along with it. And we're just going to fold this all together. Okay, we've got our prep pan, and let's just pour this in. See how it loosened up? Smooth it out just a little bit. Just kind of work it into the edges. Oh, this is an 8x8 cake pan. And now our crumble. Well, streusel. Crumble, streusel. You want to break it up into little chunks. You want to make sure you don't have big chunks. That's probably the key. Okay, streusel topping is on. This is ready to go in the oven. Again, 375. It's going to be in there for about 45 minutes. Well, I'm going to start checking at about 40. 40 minutes down. I just checked it. Needs about 5 more minutes. Just not quite past the toothpick yet. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay. 5 minutes turned into 10 minutes. Now this has to rest for 10 minutes before I try to depan it. So, also, cooking time, learn what to look for when your cake is done. Again, I use the Toothpick method, poke it in there, should come out clean. Does now. Your times are gonna vary. You know, we talked about this old girl here. She doesn't cook all that well. She gets the job done, but doesn't cook all that well. Yours may be better than mine. Yours might have been done in 40 minutes. So learn how to check it. So this is rested for a good 10 minutes. I'm just gonna run a butter knife down the sides just to loosen it up just a bit. The side that doesn't have the paper. And then hopefully everything will just pop right out with a sling. Over here. Perfect. This thing needs to cool the rest of the way. Okay, our gluten-free pear and blueberry buckle is ready to go. Let's plate it up and see what we got. It's going to be a little bit crumbly, but I don't mind that so much in a breakfast type bread or cake. Let's see what we got here. All right, there we go. Yeah, it was crumbly, all right. Kind of falling apart on me, but that's from the pears. You know, I kind of expected that, and that's okay for me. I'm happy with that. I'm Chef Terry. This is a blueberry pear buckle. Enjoy. Oh, by the way, gluten-free too. I'll see you next time.